Okay, here's a quick video that shows you the bank feed feature in QuickBooks Online. So once you're logged into your account, go over to banking. And here we have three tabs. We have banking, rules, and receipts. So we'll do a little bit of all three. But you can see here we have, and this is just a fake company, but it's got three accounts connected, a checking account, a savings account, and then a credit card. You can also connect your credit cards. And what you see here is there's a number of the transactions that you have to review as the bookkeeper, as the business owner, whatever your role is. And so if you scroll down, you can see there's all these transactions. They're sorted by date right now. And these are ones that QuickBooks Online is pulling from your bank data. So when you set up these accounts, it'll prompt you for your bank login, and it pulls the transactions in from your online banking into QuickBooks Online. So as the transactions come through, you'll see them here, and they come up basically just in a queue for you to categorize and to either categorize or to match to an existing transaction in your books. So you can see here there's one $55 deposit. It's in the received column. And QuickBooks Online didn't know what to do with it, so it put it to uncategorized income. We'll just do sales of product income. You can add in a memo, and then you can add an attachment. I always recommend adding an attachment if you have one for any transaction. It just makes things easier if you ever need to pull records for anything. When you click add attachment, we'll just give you a pop-up. So we'll click add for that one. Now your goal as the bookkeeper should really be to match as many transactions as possible instead of just adding them as they come through on your bank account, because if you can match them, that means that there's no surprises. You've already added the transaction to your books. It's coming through, it matches what you've recorded, so you click match and you're done, and it doesn't actually change your books at all. That would be your goal as the bookkeeper. But there are things that come through that you just don't have time to record ahead of time, or you don't know about, like things like bank fees or something like that. So here we have what looks like a refund from a rental company. So it categorized it to uncategorized income, but we can see here the bank detail says rental backhoe deposit refund. So we want to maybe code this against equipment rental. We'll click add. And we have a couple more transactions from that have the same description and similar amounts. So when we go to categorize this first one, we'll do equipment rental again. You see that green pop-up towards the bottom of the screen. What QuickBooks Online does is as you code transactions and categorize things, it will start to learn from your behavior. So this was originally uncategorized expense. Now it's equipment rental because it says, okay, these transactions are similar. They categorize this one as equipment rental, so this one is probably also equipment rental. So that's a really cool artificial intelligence feature of QuickBooks Online. You can also manually create rules, which I'll show you in a second. So we'll click add for this one. And now you can see this is green. This means that QuickBooks Online has made a judgment call based on prior behaviors. So that's, again, we'll click add there. And then again, your goal would be really to match as many transactions as possible. So we have quite a few matches in there. So let's look at this first one. It says 2 records found. So you can't just click a one click and accept the transaction for this one. You actually have to review to make sure you're accepting the right one. So we can see Pam seats here. We want to make sure that we match this transaction. QuickBooks Online says, well, this transaction has a similar date and it's the exact same amount. So it just wants to make sure that you're matching the correct transaction. So we'll match this one. And then again, lots of matches here. This means that we've recorded them in our books and that we don't need to actually do anything. They don't change our books at all. It's just matching the transactions like this. So we'll continue on that way. 2 records found for this one. We can see the date is 10/7 from the bank detail. And then this record is 10/7. This one's 9/30. It's probably a different expense. So we'll do this. Deposit we're going to match. Categorized expense. That's fine for now. Bill payment match. So that's kind of the process. You just kind of go through and match as many transactions as possible. And then up here you have your rules tab. So as you go through your transactions, sometimes QuickBooks Online will automatically suggest a rule to add. You know, if it sees it, the exact same description 3 or 4 times that's coded to the same place, it's going to say, do you want to make this a rule? And you have a couple of options for rules. So This is how we would manually create one, but you'll get a pop-up with a lot of this information if you get an auto add one from QuickBooks Online. So we'll call this rule, let's just say bank charge. This is money out transactions, and it's actually only going to be in our checking account because that's the only one we get bank fees from. And include description contains, and let's just say it comes through as service charge. We want to assign it as an expense. Category would be bank charges. Payee, you can put your bank name if you want, but we'll just leave that blank. And then down here, this is important, auto add or not. So if you have this checked, if it's turned on, then what's going to happen is when that transaction comes through your bank account, QuickBooks Online is going to add it to your books, and it won't even come up in your queue on the banking tab. So a lot of people don't like this feature because then they don't see the transaction actually come through. I'm one of those people. I like to see everything come through the bank account. Even if I know what it's for, I just like to see it so that I know it happened and I can review everything. So I usually uncheck this, but again, if you're just looking to get your books done quickly and you know it's going to be bank charges and you don't really care, go ahead and hit auto add. So we'll hit save. And then as those transactions come through, if we click auto add, we won't see them in our queue. But if we don't click auto add, then what's going to happen is it'll come up and it'll have a green tag that says rule. And then you can just go ahead and add it. It'll have it categorized correctly already for you. And then the last tab here is receipts. This is a really cool feature. And basically what this allows is it allows you 4 different ways to upload receipts and attach them to transactions. So you can upload from your computer. So if you have a system in place where you scan receipts or documents and then you scan them into the same folder and you can upload them from there. You can upload from Google Drive. You have receipt forwarding. This isn't set up because, again, this is just a fake company, but receipt forwarding is basically if you get an emailed receipt to you or an invoice or something, you can go ahead and just click forward, and then QuickBooks Online will have you come up with a unique email address. So it'll be your company name or something, and then at qbodocs.com. And when you forward the information from the receipt to this QBO Docs email address, they'll come up in your queue here. And then same thing with the mobile app. So QuickBooks Online subscriptions come with a free mobile app. Once you download that, you can actually snap receipts. So if you just, if you're walking out of a gas station or a restaurant and you have the receipt in your hand, you can just snap a picture of it and throw it out, and it'll come through in QuickBooks Online. So once the receipts have been uploaded, you come down here and they'll come up in a for review queue for you. So it'll have one of a couple of things. It'll try its best to pull as much information as possible from the receipt. It's not always perfect, but it's usually pretty close. And then you can, if it finds a transaction that has the same date and amount from the receipt, it's going to match it. So then you just click match, and then that receipt will automatically be attached to that transaction. This is extremely useful if you're ever audited or anything and you need documentation pulled up quickly. You can pull them right from the transaction. If it doesn't recognize it, you may have to either find a match or manually enter some of the information from the receipt, and then eventually QuickBooks will match it, assuming it's tied to a bank transaction. You can also do the same thing with bills, so not necessarily receipts, but things that haven't been paid yet. You can see you can now upload bills too. So if you upload a bill, it's not going to match it to a transaction, but it'll allow you to add the bill to your books, and then that receipt or bill will be attached to the actual transaction in QuickBooks, and then it'll come up in your queue to pay later when you go to pay bills. So very useful feature. Bank feeds are really one of the biggest things about QuickBooks Online and the biggest reason why people switch from whatever other accounting software they use. It's unmatched technology in the accounting world. So if you have any more specific questions on how this could work for your company, contact me, Casey Moss Tax and Accounting LLC, and you can find me at CaseyMossTax.com.